Okay then, it's Team Series time, from 37 to 1. Let's get to it. In 37th, MTG Sheep. Well, this is just terrible. In particular, because Zhil Yao was at 9 and 6 when he got DQ'd. We'll talk more about disqualifications and cheating in a bit. But 5 of them made day 2. That's really good. Only Yi Ding missed out. Qi Wentao, Bolin Zhang, Sun Xuan, all 9 and 7. Yao Ziel, as I say, 9 and 6. And Liu Chen, 8 and 8. There was a point at which 2 Chinese players were playing at 7 and 2 in the feature match area, because Zhang Hao was there as well. He's not part of MTG Sheep. I think the Chinese are starting to get pretty good at Magic. I really do. I'm interested in seeing what happens at Shanghai this weekend. But MTG Sheep fell away, and then with the DQ as well, that's really not very good news. On we go. Mana Traders. Oh dear. This was a disaster. Look, if you read Rich Stein's article, which you should, he talks about tiers and does a sort of professional sports analogy, kind of with baseball. You know, you kind of your major league teams, the contenders, the major league teams in a small market, your minor league. You should take a look. The teams are not all created equal, and they're not trying to all do the same things. I talked about this in the preview article on the Mothership. But Mana Traders, Andrew Beckstrom, Pat Cox, David Ochoa, Ricky Chin, Alex Mageton, Galdenis Vidugiris, these are all very good players. So they should not be at the bottom of the bracket. And they are. Andrew Beckstrom, 1 and 5. Alex Mageton, 2 and 5. Galdenis Vidugiris, 3 and 5. Pat Cox, 5 and 8. Ricky Chin, 5 and 8. David Ochoa, the only positive record amongst 6 of them, 8, 7 and 1. Context, 7 Pro Tour top 8 between them. $350,000 lifetime earnings between them. One of them with a positive record. Utter disaster, completely out of contention realistically for top of the team series. Wow. What went wrong there? No idea. Disaster. Team Blitz. Now, they also did really badly with 15 points, which is essentially the minimum. That's your 3 points for your 5 top players, 2 and 5 for Joe So, 2 and 6 for Rafael Kors. The other 4 all made day 2, but 6, 10, 7, 9, 8 and 8 for Jaron Pousset and Nathan Basser. They were the best 2 at 8 and 8. Oof. But compare and contrast, no top 8s, $42,000 lifetime earnings between them all from 8 Grand Prix top 8s. This is not a team that we're expecting to trouble the scorers at the top end. But they didn't. And the fact that there was not a single positive record, that'll disappoint them. Team Sorcery are up next. 16 points, so 1 above the minimum, puts them in 35th, tied for 35th approximately. 1 and 6, Oliver Tomiko. Now, don't panic. He's your national captain, Team USA. And the good news is, he's very good at Magic. I know 1 and 6 doesn't look like it, but he is. And when it comes along, you have every chance. Not captain, national champion. Of course, Reed Duke's the captain. But you know, he is your national champion. He's still very good. Not on Friday. Everyone else made day 2, but they were all in 7, 8, 8, 8. Best record was Zach Canner at 9 and 7, which is pretty decent all in all. 25-year-old American, first Pro Tour start for him. So Sorcery, not expected to be at the races. They weren't. Tomiko, the big miss. Everyone else survived, made day 2, played a bunch of Magic, hopefully had a good time. Not contenders for the team series. Snap cards to 16 points. So, pretty bad news, really. Vita Grassato, first Pro Tour, 2 and 6. Ryan Cubitt, 3 and 5. He's a gold pro. He went 3 and 5. Makis Matsoukas of Greece. He's a gold pro. Went 3 and 5. Then you've got Bill Chronopoulos, part of the World Magic Cup team, winners for Greece, 7 and 8. They had one positive record. That was Gregor Kowalski of Poland. Now, he was doing pretty well. That represents falling away down the back stretch. But obviously, it was a good weekend for Poland all round. But Kowalski at 9 and 7, the best that Snapcardster had to offer. Michael Bonder wasn't there, silver pro from Denmark, so he still has his invite to go. But yeah, that's not a great showing, and they are not destined to be troubling the scorers at the top end of it. Nor a Cloud Post crew, but they weren't expecting to. This is a group of people who have played between them one Pro Tour lifetime before this. So, sure, Sumain Chen, Ben Corsi, Slater Claudel, 262635. Jean-Francois Betty wasn't there. At this one, had gone 9-5 and 2 at Hour of Devastation. Christian Trudel 8 and 8. Ryan Schumacher 9 and 7. He'd been 6-2 overnight, so 3-5 the next day. A winning record at a Pro Tour in your first Pro Tour. That's great. So all in all, despite their numbers not being very good, well done to Ryan Schumacher for having a positive record. This was a team of convenience. Again, people who knew that they weren't going to be at the top end and just did what they could. So well done, Ryan Schumacher. Cloud Post crew, you're not going to hear much about between now and the end of the season. Almost certainly the most astonishing fail of the weekend. No other way to say it. Face-to-face games. They've played 289 Pro Tours between them. 19 top 8s, 2 titles. 55 Grand Prix top 8s, 13 titles. $945,000 lifetime earnings. Corey Burkhart, 3 and 5. Rich Hone, 3 and 5. David Williams, 3, 4 and 1. None of them in day 2. Gabriel Nassif, 8, 7 and 1. Eric Froelich and Ben Rubin, 9 and 7, giving them 1 extra point each. 17 points for Team Face to Face. 35 points behind Leaders Genesis and behind 32 other teams. It's not entirely impossible that they can come back from this to at least be in contention for a top 4 spot, which is cash. Because can you imagine a world in which Gabriel Nassif and Eric Froelich both make the top 8 of a Pro Tour? Yes, you can. Well, that's 20, 25 points each. Suddenly that's 40 points in one PT from 2 of your team members making the top 8. If you can get multiples into the top 8, that is a huge deal. But my lord, they have given themselves a mountain to climb. It is no exaggeration to say they cannot possibly have imagined it could possibly be this awful. It was terrible. Lingering Souls. Lingering Souls, there's only one soul left from this lot. This is Andy Gantz from Switzerland. He did not do well. He went 2 and 5. David Irvin, 3 and 5. Couple of 8 and 8s, Alex Sittner and Daniel Cathro. 10 and 6, their best was Michael Hinderaker, which was a good effort. Unfortunately, though, he's a silver pro, which means he's used up his invite and doesn't automatically come back. 11 and 5, remember, is the number you need to come back. So Hinderaker, good. The rest of Lingering Souls, not so good. Last year, they were the fairy tale story. They were deep in the mix for coming back and being right in the thick of the team series down the stretch. That is not happening this year. Metagame Guru Sun next. 18 points in the 29th slot here. A couple of 1-5s, Ben Friedman, Jerry Thompson, Jerry Thompson, 1 and 5. Josh Cho, 2 and 5. 3 out the door before day 2. And then Oliver 2, 7, 9. Andre Strasky, 8 and 8. Matt Severa, 10 and 6. Now, I had these guys in the top dozen or so, in that sort of second group of teams that might push the very best. Doesn't look like it. Now, obviously, Jerry Thompson's a Pro Tour champion less than a year ago. He hasn't suddenly become bad at Magic. Ben Friedman is a very solid player. But I do think that they needed to do a lot better than this if they were going to compete across the season. Unlike the Nassif, Williams, Hone team, I don't think that Metagame Guru's son can give away 30-plus points to the likes of Genesis and CFB and expect to catch them across 3 more events. I just don't see that at all. So, very disappointing weekend for Metagame Guru's son. Next is Child's Play. Now, they didn't have a great weekend either. Again, 18 points. David Mines, the Australian, 1-5. Simon Nielsen of Denmark, 3-5. Sam Tharmaratnam is out at 3-5. They had 3 people make it in. Gerard Fabiano was 8-8. He came in and did a deck tech with us, and that was really cool. That guy just talks so persuasively and powerfully and beautifully. It's well worth checking out the deck tech just to see a player who can talking. Yeah, I was sitting at the news desk and I was just sitting there going, you're so good at this, aren't you? You really are. Just fantastic presenter. So Fabiano 8-8, Zen Takahashi 7-9, and Anthony Lee was the best of them, the Australian, at 10-6. And it was great to see him back, but again, 11-5 would have been a much happier story for him. He now goes back to Australia and has to re-qualify again. He'd got back here via RPTQ. So Child's Play, who are sponsored by a Child's Play charity. That is what Child's Play is about. It is about putting Xboxes and tablets and board games and jigsaws and puzzles into hospitals where kids are waiting for the next round of chemotherapy or for the next surgery or the next exploratory MRI, which are not good times, not fun times. For those of you who've been in hospital, you know it's no joke. Kids, not good. So if you get a chance to help out with Child's Play, do please. I think it's great that a team, amongst the sleeves and the deck boxes and the websites, that Magic players have been sponsored by a charity. I think that's pretty awesome. Chance for us to give back a little bit. So that was Child's Play on 18 points. So we're Catharsis. Now, Catharsis, I think they'll be pretty disappointed with this as a team. Peter Viren, 2-5, brother of Pascal. Oliver Polat-Rotman, 3-5. Niels Norlander, Magic Online champion, 3-5. Niels Moller, the England World Magic Cup captain, 7-8. Mark Tobiash, who played that tiny teamer list, came in to do a deck tech with us, 8-8. Their only positive record was Pierre Dajon, and I think he'll be really disappointed with 10-6 because he was right in the thick of things. Pretty sure he was 8-2 after 10 rounds. So he then went 2-4 down the stretch. So no third Pro Tour top 8 for him. Catharsis were probably not going to be in the thick of the Team Series race, but I do think that 3 players not making day 2 and 10-6 the best, they will not be happy. First striker up next, they're the first of the 19 pointers. 2 eliminated here. Robert Anderson at 2-5, Matthew Kelly at 3-5. Then you've got Dean McLaren 8-8, Vidianto Wijaya 8-8, Dougie P, Doug Potter, my boy from Canada, big fan of Dougie, and Daniel Fournier, or Fournier, depending how you view things, on 10-6. Again, 11-5 is where you want to be. I know I keep saying it, but just as a reminder, that is the gulf between 10-6 and 11-5 is enormous. First Strike were never likely to be challenging. They're not going to now. They're in 25th. I think that's probably about right for them, but they would have liked to bring someone back at 11-5. Now this next team, very disappointing. Mass Drop East. 3-5 for Mark Jacobson, the only one who missed out. Everyone else made it into day 2, but Tim Wu 8-8, Scott Lips 7-8, Jarvis Yu 9-7, Tommy Ashton 8-8. Their only double figure winner was, well, of course it was, Ari Lax, who's tremendously consistent, a great team captain. He was sort of part of the foundation of the Mass Drop squads that have been 1 and 2 and 3 entire teams at various points. But again, no big finish from anyone. Just very mediocre, win 1, lose 1, win 1, lose 1. And they're down in 25th with 19 points, a chasm away from being in the thick of things. And they're a team who I think will have fancied their chances of doing reasonably well this season. They've got quite a lot to do to make that happen. La Perlanera, the Black Pearl. I think the Black Pearl just sounds better than La Perlanera, but that's just me. 2 out, Marco Camiluzzi, Alessandro Lippi, who I saw on the flight from Manchester to Chicago. By the way, don't take an American Airlines flight from Manchester to Chicago. Did I mention that? I think I may have done. The ones who made it in, Federico Del Basso 8-8, Matteo More 8-8, Carmine Daniello 9-7. Their best finisher was the longest name on the Pro Tour, which is not Paolo Vita Dom-de-Rosa, but Carlos Alexandre dos Santos Esteves. Oh, yes, it is. Strangely, he's Brazilian as well. They like using up their ink, don't they, on the signatures? 10-5-1. Close, so close to 11-5. Fourth Pro Tour for him. This is his best finish by a mile. Good job by him. Not a team that was likely to be up at the top. Kind of a little bit below par, I would say, for them. The comic book store. Now, actually, I think they've done pretty well here. This, to me, looked like one of the weakest squads coming in. Sorry, guys, I'm just being honest. And they didn't do too badly. Colin Roundtree missed out. He went 0-5 before dropping. But everyone else made it in. Jonathan Morawski, 5-8. Will Craddock, 6-7. Pair of 9-7s, Jacob Nagro and Jonathan Sukenik. And Michael Cochran was the best of them at 10-6. He, though, a silver pro, again, 11-5 would have done it for him. 10-6, one short. So they're going to lose some members. The comic book store is not going to be open for business largely at the next PT. But the fact that they did have 3 positive records at the Pro Tour, I can't emphasize enough how hard it is, just to have 1 positive record for the smaller teams. So 3 positive records, pretty decent all in all. Hot Sauce games are up next. Yeah, they're going to be disappointed. Tyler Hill, 3-5. Adam Jansen, 3-5. Then Ben Hull, 7-8. Greg Orange, the Citrus Assassin, 8-8. 2 10-6s, which is good. Stephen Neal and Andre Prost. I've got a lot of time for Stephen Neal. He always plays with a smile on his face. Seems like one of the true good guys in the game. But not quite enough to elevate. Again, the points are structured in such a way, 3 points up to 9-7, 6 points, 4 points for 9-7, 6 for 10-6, 10 for 11-5, 15 for 12-4. If you are going 9-7, 10-6, it's just really hard to make inroads at the top of the table. I expect that they have a good chance that one of them will make a top 8 sometime during the season, but probably a little bit below par this time around. Eureka are up next. Well, they're a team that have gone through all sorts of changes. This time around, Steve Hatter of Luxembourg was 3-5. Valentin Mackel, very disappointing, 5-8. I keep waiting for him to really deliver on a Pro Tour stage. He's got like 54% win rate from 19 starts. It feels to me like he should be doing it at the very highest level, not just at the GP level, where he has 6 Grand Prix top 8s and is uniformly excellent within the European scene. I don't know what he needs to figure it out at the highest level, but something's missing, and I can't put a finger on it, and I'm sure he can't either, or he'd have done something about it. He went 5-8. 8-8 for Alexa Telerov of Serbia, and then 3 10-6s, and you see, you would swap any one of those for an 11-5 or a 12-4. Patrick Dickman did well, I think, at 10-6. Panagiotis Papadopoulos, Gold Pro, 10-6. Emmanuel Gershenson, Silver Pro, 10-6. Back to the drawing board for Gershenson. He now not guaranteed to be part of the Eureka team in Bilbao in February. On we go. Harry Latin, of the mid-table teams, because we're sort of heading towards halfway, I think Harry Latin will be among the most disappointed, despite the fact that only one of them missed out on day 2. That was Lucas Esperberto, who went 1-6. Everyone else made day 2. Carlos Romeu was 8-8. Sebastian Pozzo went 8-8. And then they had 3 10-6s. Luis Salvato, Marcio Carvalho, Thiago Saporito. the thing is, this is a really good squad. This should certainly be a top dozen team or so, and potentially into the top 8 and potentially top 4 to cash. But they're giving themselves a lot of work to do because 24 points is not a big haul. Now, again, it's all about, can you put people into the top 8? Can you go the distance and get 15, 18, 20, 22, 24, 30 points for taking down the entire thing? And all of these players are capable of doing so. There are 8 Pro Tour top 8s between them. They've got over $500,000 in prize money between them. So all is not lost, but in the handicap system, with 1 of 4 results gone, they will not be happy. I really don't think they'll be happy that no one got better than 10 and 6. Cusimano are up next. They're on 26 points in 19th. Oldest player on the Pro Tour, Tour Ixalan, led the way, 11 and 5. There were 4 9-7s. That was Kazuyuki Takamura, the Pro Tour champion for Battle for Zendikar. Shuhei Nakamura, Hall of Famer, 9-7. Riku Kumagai, Gold Pro, 9-7. And the King of the Fairies, Yuta Takahashi, also went 9-7. Only Kazuaki Fujimura missed out. Luck and variance and the wrong deck and a few wrong choices along the way, I guess. I miss Shuhei being outstanding. When I came into the game as a commentator in the mid-2000s, Shuhei was one of the true rock stars of the game. He, apart from anything else, he was one of a travelling trio of Japanese Players of the Year. Kenji Samura from 2005, Tomoharu Saito from 2007, Shota Yasuoka was 2006, and then Shuhei himself would be Player of the Year in 2008. So good, so utterly dominant. And in the last 4 or 5 years, he's there, but he's not really there. You know? He comes along, he smiles, he's still a lovely guy. What he isn't is a credible threat to win a Pro Tour. Now, that's probably just a life choice on his part, that he's looking at other things. But, as I say, I miss the Shuhei who was an utter monster. Because now he's just good. And there are a lot of good players out there. Cusimano, 26 points, 19th place. Card holder Brazil are up next. They're on 27 in 18th. One miss out, that was Guilherme Meriam. The clue is in the name, of course, all of these Brazilian players. 8-7-1 for Marcos Paulo de Jesus Freitas, which you can just about say in one breath. 9-7 for Jonathan Melamed and Willie Adel, the godfather of Brazilian Magic, of course. 10-6 for Eduardo dos Santos Vieira, who had that green-white tokens deck. And then 11-5 Bernardo Santos, which is good. He's a Silver Pro. He gets to come back. So that's like winning the Pro Tour, right? That's great job. He gets to be in Bilbao in February. Some of the others have fallen away. They'll need to try and requalify. Cardholder Brazil will therefore not be in the thick of the action for the top finishes. But that's not really what they're intended for. They are, in some senses, a farm system for Brazilian Magic. Let's put the best players in the country together who aren't on the Harry Latin team, because obviously you've got Ramau there and Paolo off with Channel Fireball. But let's build a community of solid Brazilian players who can try and scrabble to get onto the Pro Tour permanently. And that means becoming silver and then requalifying. That's the goal for a team like Cardholder Brazil. Final Last Samurai. I think they'll actually be quite pleased. Makihito Mihara won't be, because he went 3-5, 2006 World Champion, Hall of Famer, of course. But everyone else made it into day 2. A couple of 8-8, Tsuyoshi Fujita, Hall of Fame, Ryoichi Tamada, finalist from Pro Tour Battle for Zendikar. 10-6 was Kenji Samura, another of those mid-2000s great Japanese pros. Yuta Hirasawa went 10-5-1, which accurately reflects the fact that he wins about 60% of his matches on the PT. And then 11-5 was Yuki Matsumoto, who, after his 6-0 draft, then once again dribbled backwards because he went 5-5 in constructed. His constructed rating it's not terrible, but it's not good. It is just very, very ordinary 50 mids, 54, somewhere around there. So there is someone who really either wants there to be a limited Pro Tour, which is probably not happening anytime soon, or really needs to sort out from his teammates, ideally, a deck that he can pilot to a really positive record. Because he's only, if he keeps going 5-1 and 6-0 in draft, that means he's only 6-4 or 7-3 away in constructed from the top 8. He doesn't need to go 9-1 with that kind of limited record. So I hope he can sort that out because he seems pretty exciting to me. So that's Final Last Samurai in the middle of the pack, 29 points, 17th. Musashi. Remember I mentioned that they were 23rd after day one? Well, they improved a bit. Here's how they did. Ken Yukihiro, 1 and 5, out the door. 3, 4 and 1, Yuya Watanabe. That's just astonishing that both of them failed to make day 2. Even the ones that did, not great news. Yuki Ichikawa, 6 and 8. Teruya Kakumai, 8 and 8. But 2 bits of good news. Shota Yasuoka at 10 and 6. Now, 10 and 6 for Shota is not a great record. It's a fine score, but if you're Shota Yasuoka and you're a Hall of Famer and you have 4 Pro Tour top 8s and you've earned hundreds of thousands of dollars playing the game, you're actually disappointed with 10 and 6. But the actual number, pretty solid. And then there's Kentaro Yamamoto, and this is the first of our 12 and 4s as we work our way up the team series. Finished in 9th, narrowest of tiebreak margins behind Eilenfeld. Could have been so much better for Musashi. And even as it is, they will feel 30 points. There are quite a lot of good teams, potential threat teams behind them. And yes, they are 22 points behind Genesis at the top, the team they beat in the final a few weeks ago at Worlds. But I think they will look at this and go, what are the chances that Ken Yukihiro and Yuya Watanabe don't make day 2 of the next one as well? Very low. What are the chances that Kentaro Yamamoto or Shota Yasuoka or Teruya Kakumai or Yuki Ichikawa will make a top 8 sometime this season? It's very, very high. Remember, they had an utterly dominant Pro Tour in the last season where they just demolished the field, put multiple players in the top 8, and that pretty much took care of the team series getting them into the final. There's every chance they can do that again. Nonetheless, there are lots of teams ahead of them that will go, well, thank goodness Musashi gave us a head start, because Musashi are absolutely justified as being one of the favourites, and they're less so now. I still think they're going to be in the thick of things, probably top 4, possibly top 2, but 15th is nothing like what they were expecting. So a plus for everyone else, a minus for Musashi. On we go. Same record as Musashi, team card market. Now, so here's a case in point. Arne Huschenbeth, Martin Rysek, Pascal Viren, Jasper Grimmer, Robin Dolar, and Leon van der Linden. That is nothing like the depth of squad that Musashi have. They have the same result. Leon van der Linden missed out on day 2 with 3 and 5. You have Grimmer at 8 and 8, couple of 9-6-1s in Martin Rysek and Robin Dolar of Slovenia, the control mage. 10-5 and 1 for Pascal Viren. That one, of course, was against Pascal Menard. And Arne Huschenbeth, Silver Pro, comes back 11 and 5. Great job. I like Arne a lot. Plays very solidly on the European scene. Got a couple of top 8s and a win as well from Rimini in 2016. A solid performance all round. And to be in the top half, I think, is not a lot above average, but a pretty good result for Team Card Market. Next is Team Connected Company. Now, I really don't know what to make of this. This is very much, it feels glass half full, glass half empty. First of all, Raphael Levy wasn't there for the first time since 1998. And again, if you don't know, if you weren't paying attention earlier in the show, baby for Raph and Monica. So congratulations to them. Life moves on. And sometimes things are more important than magic. So we look forward to seeing Raphael Levy. I've written on my notes next to his name, Baby, which I'm pretty sure is the first time I've ever put Raphael Levy, Baby, into a sentence. Then you've got 6, 7 and 1 Jeremy Desani, disappointing. 6 and 8 Javier Dominguez, very disappointing. 9, 6, 1 Christian Calcano, a little bit disappointing. But then 2 11 and 5s Andrea Mengucci and Tomohiro Saito. At some point on the show, I'll talk at length about Saito. I think he's one of the most interesting human beings in the history of the game. He's very polarizing, very divisive. A lot of people think he should never ever be allowed near the Magic the Gathering Pro Tour Hall of Fame. A lot of people think he was very hard done by when he did not make it in to the Magic the Gathering Pro Tour Hall of Fame, and think it is a crying shame that he will never get in because he will never get in, many people believe. We'll table that for another discussion on a quieter week, a non-Pro Tour week, here on Talking Points, or Talking Points. So, Saito 11 and 5, Andrea Mengucci 11 and 5, 14th place for Connected Company, bit below average probably. They will feel they're certainly in the top dozen teams that should be looking to be in contention, and they've sort of missed the boat a little bit in the first PT of the season. MTG Mint Card are up next on 32 points. Jason Chung 9 and 7, 11 for 1 for Kelvin Chu, 9 and 7 for Li Shi Chan's a disappointment. Eduardo Sajkovic 3 and 5 missed out on day 2. The big news here, two things. First, Yan Wing Chun went from 10 and 0 to 11 and 5. This guy is so good at Magic, and I promise you faithfully, he kept smiling every time he lost a round through day 2. He was still this charming, affable, pleasant, happy-go-lucky guy, despite just seeing the top 8 disappear from the last perfect record to 10, 11 and 5. Ugh. And then there's the DQ of Hao Shan Wang. We'll talk about DQs and cheating when we get to the end of this segment. But 12th place for MTG Mint Card, a little bit below where they would expect. Card Hoarder, on the other hand, good finish, 32 points in the top dozen. Joe Lissette and Jack Kiefer didn't make it through. Kiefer, one of the youngest competitors at 15, went 1-5. Joe Lissette 2 and 5, but 7 and 8 for Noah Walker. He's a gold pro, so he's safely back in for the rest of the season. Then you've got 10 and 6 Robert Graves, and 2 players at 11 and 5. Grixis Control, Shaheen Surani, and Eli Cassis also went 11 and 5. And that's fantastic news all round. Surani's 11 and 5 as a silver pro, brings him back for Bilbao, so he was utterly stoked to be going to Spain. And honestly, I think the Pro Tour is a better place when Shaheen Surani is there. I think GPs are better places when Shaheen Surani is there. If you haven't had the chance to get to know him as a human being, you're missing out. He's a very fine person, and it doesn't do any harm that he plays all the best decks, because as we all know, the best control decks are the best decks. Isn't that right? On we go. Dave and Adams. Now, this may be, not sure yet, but I think this may be my team of the weekend. Dave and Adams, 10th place, 33 points. Terrific. Now, Ryan Hare, 3 and 5. Evan Esposito, 3 and 5. Joey Mannard, the only player on that team with a Pro Tour top 8, 5 and 8. But then, Ralph Batesh, 10 and 6. Adam Ragsdale, also 10 and 6, but he was silver and would have really loved 11 and 5. And Jeff Peaker, 12 and 4. Last time, Dave and Adams were 32nd, I think, out of 32 teams. They were certainly in the 30s. This time around, a fantastic start for them. Less than $50,000 career earnings between the 6 of them. Every chance that might improve this year. I think this was a terrific showing. Great team effort. Top 10. Given people in the rearview mirror, that's a fantastic performance. Well done them. Magic Corsairs crew also had 33 points. This is the French team that I've been mentioning a lot. Alexandre Habert, Florian Trott missed out 2-6 and 3-5. Then 9-7 for Alexander Aurillac. He'll be disappointed. He was 6-0, I believe, at one point, fell away quite substantially. But then 10 and 6 for Guillaume Perbet and a pair of 11 and 5s. Elliot Bousseau, who went 8-2 in constructed, so therefore 3-3 in draft. Want to improve that next time. But 11-5 with that blue-white Drake Haven deck. And Sam Vuillo, very strong constructed win rate. He went 11-5. Good stuff all round. I think the future is very bright for not only this team, but French Magic in general at the moment. It's been about Raph Levy and Jeremy Desani for a while, and Pierre Dajon. But now I think this new group, this is one of those teams where it's really helped them to piece the team together. And I expect good things from them the rest of the season. They can certainly stay in the top 10. Next, Phoenix 404. So this is a German team, 6 players. Basically, they just got together on a free roll. They're going, look, we're all qualified. We might as well make a team, see what happens. Well, what happens is Josh Bausch, Michael Steinecker, Ben Luft, they only have 6 match wins between them. Not great. Florian Koch, who has a losing record from 4 Pro Tours so far, had his first positive record, 9-7, good job. Torsten Anders went 10-6, which is a very good job. And then Christian Hauck, well, we know what happened to him. He made it all the way to the top 8, which is just fantastic. And talking to Brian David Marshall, I had watched the interview with Christian that they'd done live from the floor, and it had seemed to me that he was quite stilted, quite anxious, kind of. And talking to BDM afterwards, he said, oh no, he was just choked up, super emotional, just barely able to get the words out what it meant to make a top 8, which is really cool, because I think that's a much better feeling than just being, oh, I don't really know what to say, and you're putting a camera in my face and I feel really awkward, which is kind of what I felt he was thinking. So great stuff by him. Congratulations. Of course, that brings him back for another crack in Bilbao. And Phoenix Foundation, let's not confuse those two. Phoenix 404 are not going to be challenging because a lot of their players are going away now, and so they will fall way down the leaderboard. But that doesn't matter, because they had their day and they watched their guy make the top 8. And if you're one of those new teams, that's a dream come true, basically. So brilliant job by Phoenix 404. Into the top 8 we go. Revelation, the Genesis second team, if you like. Chris Larson didn't make day 2, but never mind, because he still got to lift Seth Manfield at the end of the tournament. Everyone else made day 2. Peter Sahurek, disappointing 8-8, 9-7 for Thomas Hendricks, and then 3 11-5s. Paul Dean, Joel Larson, Martin Dang. That's rock solid pro play. And that's kind of what Revelation are. I don't think, with the greatest respect to my dear friend Joel Larson and my good friend Martin Dang, who are the Pro Tour champions on that team, I don't think any of them regard themselves as the best Magic player in the world. I don't believe any of them think that they are the best team in the team series. But what they all are is solid, hard-working professional Magic players who at any given time are going to beat the bulk of people that they play against. So I think top 10 is about right for them. I'd be surprised if they pushed on hard to get into the top 2. Is it possible that there's going to be a Genesis versus Revelation final? Yes. I don't think it's very likely. But rock solid weekend, top 8 performance, and at some point things can shift if they get 1 or 2 people into a top 8. So that's Team Revelation. Up we go. Now we're on to 40 points, and the huge surprise of the weekend, this is Tower Games. Now, let's not get carried away. A lot of this is about Sam Eilenfeld, of course, who went 12-4, made it into the top 8, got past the quarterfinals with Sigrist, so gets a stack of points, 22 points, I think, for him. Scott Markson, though, went 9-7. Matt Sicking-Johnson went 9-7. Alex Johnson, no relation, I think, went 9-7. Daniel Weiser went 10-6. Only Jackson Hicks missed out. He was 16. He was playing in his first PT, and 3-5. That's a perfectly reasonable record. Obviously, he'd have liked 4-4 to come back the next day, but all round, well done by the team. 4 positive records there, plus Ihlenfeld's top 8. Wonderful stuff. Realistically, they should go down, not up. Very unlikely to repeat 5 into day 2, positive records, lots of bonus points, and a top 8. They don't have a lot of big name reliability. So I think probably this is as high as we'll see Tower games go. But it was a, pun intended, towering achievement. Great job to be in the top 8. It was a long time ago that we talked about Metagame Guru's Sun. So now here's Metagame Guru's Moon. Couple missed out. Brandon Ayres 2-5, Jacob Wilson 3-5. Brandon Ayres won't care because he was watching John Rolfe, his roommate, get into the top 8. Then you've got 9-7, Mattia Rizzi, Nathaniel Smith. But the 2 really good finishes, 27-year-old Travis Wu with his blue-black control list. He got to 10 and 6. And then John Rolfe, of course, 12-3 and 1 into the top 8, beats Christian Hauck in the quarterfinals and gets all the way to the semis. I really do think that he's the real deal. And that gives me a lot of confidence for this team moving forward. Whether they can stay in the top 10, I think is probably doubtful. But they're going to be in the top half throughout the season, and I think that's about right for them. So then, it was also a long time ago that I talked about the other half of this lot. This is Mastrop West. So Sean McLaren didn't make day 2, went 3 and 5. Rob Pisano 8 and 8. Couple of 9-7s. John Stern, Eric Severson. Ben White's 10 and 6. So those 5 are pretty ordinary as a series of records. But also on this team, the bearded one from Canada, Pascal Menard. He gets there, makes it into the quarters, makes it to the semis, makes it to the final, makes it to game 5, almost a Pro Tour champion. But phenomenal run by him. And for any team, regardless of their overall score, if you can put any one member of your 6-person team into a top 8, you've had a fantastic weekend. So well done, Mastrop West. Top 5 right now, probably going to go down rather than up as we move through the season, but not necessarily by a lot. And they could, certainly if they have one more top 8 in Bilbao, that would really put them in the mix for the Team Series title at the halfway mark. In 4th, it's Ultimate Guard. So this to me is one of the big stories of the weekend. This is the definition of everything that 11 and 5 means. Right? Let me show you what I mean. John Finkel, 3 and 5. He's not into day 2. Then, 10 and 6, Andrew Cuneo. 11 and 5, Paul Ixalan, Reid Duke, William Jensen. 11, 4 and 1, Owen Turnwoud. Those are all very similar records. But let me tell you how different those storylines were. So, Paul Ritzel's 11 and 5 was basically I was always winning, but not really enough to be in the thick of things. Not often in the feature match area, not pacing the field. Ended up with a solid record. I'm 60% at Pro Tours on average. Did well. Bunch of points. Fine. Reid Duke, 11 and 5. Mildly disappointing. Why? Because it's another Pro Tour gone by without a third top 8, and, well, he trades in top 8s. That's what he's interested in, that's what he's looking for. So he was his usual routinely excellent self. He came in as ranked as world number 1. Obviously that changes because of the Pro Tour, but he's still number 2 by quite a wide margin, as we'll see. A day at the office for Reid Duke. So what about the 11, 4 and 1 of Owen Turnwoud? Well, only because it's Owen, this was terrible. Why? Well, 11, 4, 1 isn't terrible. But Owen got to 11 and 2. He's 6-0 draft, remember. Gets to 11 and 2, and then essentially has 3 win-and-ins. The first of those is against Mike Sigrist. Now, he did effectively lose that match on camera, or certainly in the feature match area. And Sigrist offered the intentional draw just as Owen was about to lose. So Owen got a point from that, but the fact is he lost that match functionally. So he's now at 11-2-1. He loses round 15, 11-3-1. So essentially, one of the best players in the modern era had 3 matches of Magic to win any one of them to make the top 8 again. And he didn't win any of them. And he was really upset afterwards, really cross with himself. Not tears upset, but he was like, man, I think I played badly, things didn't fall my way. 11-4-1 sounds like a good record. But he knows different. The top 8 line was right there and didn't get there. And that's a wretched feeling when you're as good as he is and as driven as he is to be the best ever, and because he genuinely thinks that he's better than almost everyone else at the game. It's hard for him to think that he's the actual best player in the game because he does share a house with William Jensen, who he's like, yeah, he's pretty good really. So that's Owen with 11-4-1. Speaking of William Jensen, what was his 11-5 story like? Sounds pretty routine, doesn't it? 5 rounds in, he's at 1-4 and has to go 3 wins in a row to make it into day 2. Remember, until he gets to 9 wins, there are no bonus pro points available to him. He will get 3 for competing. Wins round 6, wins round 7, wins round 8. 4-4, sneaks in overnight. Drafts well, 5-4, 6-4, 7-4. Comes back to constructed. 8-4, 9-4, 10-4, 11-4. 10 match wins in a row. Loses his last round. Had he won that, he'd have been in a virtual tie with Sam Ihlenfeld for the top 8. Of course, he would not have made the top 8. His tie breaks would have been terrible amongst the 12-4s. But that 11-5 is worth 10 pro points rather than 3. When it comes down to it, when someone is in the top 8 of the last Pro Tour of the season and they need a certain record to overhaul Team Ultimate Guard, or Ultimate Guard has someone in the top 8 of the last Pro Tour of the season and needs a certain record on the final day of the season to overhaul Genesis or Masashi or Channel Fireball, remember the 7 points that William Jensen won for Team Ultimate Guard between 1-4 on Friday and 11-5 on Saturday. That is pure granite excellence over and over and over. I think that may have been the most important result of the entire Pro Tour for the history of the destination of the team series. That is an astonishing achievement. 10 in a row just doesn't happen very often. And it does happen not just to the best players, but the best players with the will. Brilliant. Brilliant. So that was Team Ultimate Guard. They're in 4th. Top 3, Ultra Pro in 3rd, 50 points. Everyone made day 2. It's almost impossible to make that happen, but they did. So 7 and 9, Steve Rubin was the one player without a positive record. 9-7 for Sam Black. 10 and 6 for Even Flock. Pretty good. 11 and 5 for Sam Pardy. Very good. And then a pair of 12-4s, again tied with Ihlenfeld for top 8. Alexander Hayne, Pro Tour champion, and Matt Nass. Now, neither of them were going to make the top 8. They weren't sweating on that because they'd had their losses early enough that they were coming up through the field rather than dominating it from the get-go. But to have 2 12-4s and an 11-5 is a brilliant record. They look like one of the best teams on paper beforehand. They demonstrated that, and they have got their 50 points without a top 8. And that is huge because the gap between those 15 points for 12-4 and potentially 30 for winning is enormous. So you can absolutely expect any of them to be in the mix for top 8 and another PT. And if they can then convert that into a top 8 and then start accumulating points on Sunday when everyone else is just sitting back at home watching, as it were, I think this was a huge result for them. So brilliant job, Ultra Pro. Very much expected to be in the thick of things. They are. In second, which is hard to imagine after day one, really, especially after the draft. In second, Team Channel Fireball. Everyone made day 2. Josh Utter-Layton, Hall of Fame, 8 and 8. Martin User, Hall of Fame, 9 and 7. Paulovita Dharmadorosa's 10, 5 and 1. He's a bit like Owen's 11, 4 and 1. He'll actually be pretty disappointed with that. He had a very good start, faded down the stretch. I think he was 7 and 2 at one point, and so 3, 3 and 1 down the back end for Paolo. Ben Stark, 11 and 5. He'll also be disappointed because he was 7 and 1 overnight. That said, the last time he was 7 and 1, he reversed it on day 2. I think that was Dublin last year. Went 7-1, 1-7. Stark went 11 and 5. A good solid record. He'll just feel he could have got over the hump from 7 and 1. But then, of course, you've got Luis Scott Vargas on his return, both to playing and to coverage, because he gave us his Sunday since he was one match win away from the top 8. And then, of course, the story of Team Channel Fireball is the story of Mike Sigrist. Made the top 8. Great job by him. That's his third top 8. These guys, by the way, just to clarify, 34 Pro Tour top 8s between them, 4 wins, 99 Grand Prix top 8s, $1.7 million in prize money. An absolute star-studded team, headlined by Mike Sigrist on this occasion. Which of them will turn up and be amazing at the next PT in modern? Some, most, all. Brilliant job. So it is astonishing that they are not Team Series leaders. But that award goes to Team Genesis. Well, didn't look like that early on. And Lucas Blahan went 7 and 8, 9-7 for Brad Nelson. They'll both be pretty disappointed with that. And then 3 solid but unspectacular 10 and 6s. Corey Baumeister, Brian Brown Dewin, Martin Muller. Those are all good, solid pro records. They're one below what I would call a strong showing. They're just solid. But then you've got Seth Manfield. 12, 2 and 2. A 4th Pro Tour top 8. Of course, a former world champion. Over $230,000. That's closer now to $300,000. Just magnificent. Really can't say any more about it. He deserved it. He played great. He had a great deck. We knew that Genesis would have a really strong version of a really strong deck. We were mid-season. That's what they delivered. I believe their win percentage for the Sultai list that Seth ran was somewhere in the high 70s, which is, pretty crazy. So Genesis, CFB in second, 1 point behind. Ultra Pro, 1 point behind that. And then 3 points back to Ultimate Guard. That actually sounds like a pretty representative top 4 of the likely best 4 teams in the competition. Yes, there were some surprises and some pretty unwelcome ones for some of the better-known teams. And yes, there were some surprises on the upswing. Phoenix 404, Tower Games did great. And there are plenty of teams who did just about what it looked like we thought they were. One of the 4 is in the books. It is going to be very hard for the smaller teams to compete moving forward. Remember, they are losing players from their squads. The Silver Pros who didn't make 11 and 5 are gone unless they can find another way back through top 8ing a GP or 13-2 at a GP or through an RPTQ. It is hard to get back. It's not impossible. Anthony Lee did it last year. And here he is again doing well. And he will think he can find a way back again as one of those Silvers who were 10 and 6. But all in all, it was a fantastic start to the team series. A lot of big names are at the top, and I can't wait for Bilbao. So that was the story of the team series.